Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm Rick Zamperin. There's a new book out that is a visually stunning tribute of the Niagara Escarpment, featuring more than 600 landscape, wildlife, and cultural photographs. The book is called Niagara Escarpment, Land Between Waters, the 10th book from Waterdown photographer and publisher Mark Zelinski. To celebrate its world launch, Tourism Hamilton and the City of Hamilton will host a presentation of Mark's brilliant images and stories with guest authors, Indigenous and conservation leaders on April 29th. Mark Zelinski joins me today on Newsmakers. Mark, thanks for joining the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
What inspired you to create this book?
So it's kind of a long story, but I traveled.
We got a lot of time.
Okay. So I traveled the world for 35 years. And in 2010, I did a series of books that I called Books That Heal, which were the culmination of that 35 years of work. I'm best known for that, I think. I've donated 9,000 copies of my books to charities that were distributed by Canadian charities around the world to 130 other charities. So in 2012, my mother became sick. She lived in Oakville. And I decided to stay and take care of her and look more closely at my home, where I grew up and where I first really learned how to see, which was the Niagara Escarpment. So for the next 5 years, I did a book on the Niagara Escarpment, which came out in 2017. And that was called Heart of Turtle Island, the Niagara Escarpment. And it was a very successful book. So by 2018, 2019, that book was almost depleted. So it was almost sold out, and I realized that there was still a demand for a book on the Niagara Escarpment. So I started to put together another book, which was slowed down by COVID and took a lot of different twists and turns. So after 14 years, the book is finally complete.
Wow, so this is 14 years in the making.
It's 14 years of photography. Actually, there's a couple of photos that go back to 1999 of Hamilton in the book, but mostly it's taken between 2014 and 2025.
There are so many amazing photos in this book, and we're going to go through 10 in specific and a little later on in the podcast that you've pinpointed, but it was difficult for you to do so because, again, there are some amazing photographs in here.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, there's 600 photos, so when you asked me for 30 and that we could talk about 10, it was a challenge.
It's tough.
Yeah. So I mean, there's 15 chapters in the book written by amazing authors. We have 6 Indigenous authors, 5 who've written about their communities. There are conservation leaders. Michael McDonald of the Bruce Trail wrote a chapter. Beth Gillespie of the Escarpment Biosphere Conservancy wrote a chapter. Ed McDonald, the CEO of the Greenbelt, wrote a chapter. There's chapters on ecotourism, ecological corridors, species, all the communities of the Escarpment, Indigenous and non-Indigenous.
Why was it important for you to include them in this book?
Well, when I started doing the book back in 2012, I knew that I wanted to cover the Indigenous communities. But I have to admit that I was not that knowledgeable about the Indigenous communities in Canada, even though I had traveled the world and lived with Indigenous communities in Peru and in the Middle East and in Africa. I wasn't that familiar with the Ontario Indigenous communities, and there's a lot of them. So the largest being Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation near Brantford. But when you get to the Saugeen Bruce Peninsula, there's 2 more. Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. When you get to Manitoulin Island, there's 6 more. So it's a huge population of Indigenous people that are still here. So I realized fairly quickly that I could not write about these communities, that they had to write about themselves, that they really needed to tell their own stories. So in the last book, there was 3 chapters by Indigenous peoples. In this one, there's 5. Plus another one by an amazing individual named Kaylee Patrick Nadjo and Duran from Neshingamin First Nation. And he's written a beautiful chapter at the end of the book.
Yeah.
So,
what did you learn in this process of involving them in this storytelling?
Well, I've always got along well with Indigenous peoples worldwide. For some reason, I guess it's because I'm an artist and I see things as connected as they do.
Yeah.
So I think as modern Western Euro civilization, we see the world as separate. We quantify and separate things. In indigenous communities, they tend to see how everything is connected. So we imagine that we're not connected to the water, the air, the wind, the trees, the rocks, and the land, but we are. And there's a love for these conscious living things. And they really do, indigenous peoples do see not just plants and animals as conscious, but the rocks, the trees, the water. And as such, they honor and respect these things as living conscious beings. And that's really the start of sustainability.
Yeah.
By, having this reverence for all life on Earth.
Yeah, and those stories are told just magically through your photographs and through their storytelling within this book. What do you think the reader is going to learn from beginning to end when going through this book?
Well, my goal for the first book and this book is really there's a lot of people who are aware of the Niagara Escarpment, mostly through the Bruce Trail.
Right.
But there's a lot of young people in southern Ontario that aren't really familiar with what we have here, these amazing lands and waters that are right in our backyard. And they're under threat now more than they've ever been through attacks on the Greenbelt, the conservation authorities, even on endangered species now. So never have these lands been more threatened than they are. So if young people become familiar with what we have here, if they don't know about it, they're not going to decide to protect it.
Yeah.
But if they are familiar with these lands and learn to love these lands, then hopefully they will, take up the mantle of stewardship, because they are the future. They're the ones who will be protecting or not protecting these lands into the future.
I have to say, your book is a great way to showcase what the Niagara Escarpment is all about, because even as I was going through this yesterday, and saying to myself over and over again, wow, I didn't know that was there. Wow, I didn't know that looked like that. Wow, I should go visit these places. I mean, that's really, inspirational in terms of, trying to see what this escarpment is. It's absolutely magical.
Well, it's big.
Yeah, it is that too, yeah.
So from Niagara Falls to the western tip of Manitoulin Island, I can't remember how many kilometers it is.
Yeah.
But that's the Ontario portion of the escarpment. The escarpment actually starts in New York State and ends up in Wisconsin. So it's much bigger than the Ontario.
It's massive, yeah.
But I think the most beautiful parts are in Ontario.
Yes.
And I mean, it's a huge space of land, so there's a lot of different ecosystems and a lot of microclimates and very precious biodiversity, a lot of it that's threatened right now.
Yeah.
So we have one of the most amazing landforms in the world right in our backyard, and its geological history is fascinating. It began as a shallow tropical sea at the center of a continent called Pangaea, which was the one continent on Earth before all the continents separated into the 7 that we have now. So it lasted for a long time, and there was the largest coral reef on Earth was at the center of this shallow sea. That sea eventually passed away, the coral reef fossilized, but the rim of that ancient sea is the Niagara Escarpment. It's this big arc that goes through the center of North America. So it's a very unique geological landform, and a lot of the life forms that we have on Earth today, maybe even us, began in that tropical sea. So that's where the name Heart of Turtle Island came from for the first book.
Amazing.
Because I see this as the heart of Earth.
Yeah.
Right here, this ancient
It's pretty
sea.
cool. Before we get to the 10 photos that you've kind of pinpointed that you want to highlight, I want to ask you about April 29th. It's a big date. It's the world launch of this book. I know it's going to be a proud moment for you. What can people expect if they go visit this event at the Tourism Hamilton offices?
So it's a PowerPoint presentation. It's at the beautiful Lister Block in downtown Hamilton. It's an amazing space. And so I'll be speaking to my images, telling the stories behind the images. And I have 8 chapter writers as guest speakers.
Okay.
4 of them are Indigenous. Tim Johnson, who's a Mohawk leader from Six Nations of the Grand River. He's the president of the Niagara Academy for Indigenous Relations, and I do a lot of work with Tim. So he wrote a chapter. He'll be speaking. Brian Kahn is the Indigenous Advisor for Niagara Region. He's a Métis leader from Manitoba, but he's lived in Niagara for some time. Also, we got Alan Corbière is an amazing historian. He's probably North America, if not the world's best-known Indigenous historian. He teaches at Harvard and he teaches at York U.
Wow.
So to have him write a chapter was
it's pretty amazing.
Incredibly fortunate for me. And so he writes about the peoples of Manitoulin Island. So he's going to be there speaking. And I mentioned Kaylee Patrick Nadjuan-Duran from Cape Croker Park and Anishinaabe Cultural Experiences. So he is going to talk as well as Beth Gillespie from the Escarpment Biosphere Conservancy, Michael McDonald, Edward McConnell, and David Galbraith. Dr. David Galbraith is the Director of Science from Royal Botanical Gardens. He wrote about ecological corridors, so he's going to be speaking to that.
Wow, sounds like an amazing event with so many awesome guest speakers.
We may have, I haven't confirmed, but we may have some other special guests as well. So yeah, it should be a beautiful event.
That's going to be a great event. All right, let's get to your top 10 photos.
Thank you.
Photo number 1, we're going to show it on the screen, and you can get to speak to what this photo is all about. So what are we looking at?
Well, this is just kind of reflecting back on my 49 years as a commercial photographer.
Okay, 49 years.
49 years this year, so it'll be 50 next year, obviously.
How did it all start?
So I was an artist. I went to OCAD University in Toronto, and there was a sound studio at the school, so I wanted to do something with music and sound, and a lot of my friends were musicians. So I picked up a camera strictly to do audiovisual presentations and do a soundtrack.
Okay.
So I started winning scholarships for being a photographer.
Hey, I'm good at this.
I was not trained as a photographer. I was trained as a designer, as an artist, in composition and color and design. So picking up a camera was pretty easy.
Yeah.
So I thought, why fight it? I'll keep doing this, and I ended up doing films as well, which I sold at CBC and won the Governor General's Medal mostly for my photography and film work. I still painted as well. So I lived in Oakville at the time, and an article came out in the Oakville Beaver, the Oakville newspaper, about me winning the Governor General's Medal. And I got a call from the Royal Canadian Golf Association and said, will you shoot the Canadian Open? I said, sure. I had no idea how to do that, actually, but I learned on the job, and took some pictures which became fairly famous, of Lee Trevino in particular.
Wow.
So within a week, I was shooting for the Blue Jays, and another 6 months later, I was working for the National Film Board and became the official photographer for Queen's Park. So it happened really quickly, and very unexpectedly, but I just went with it.
Wow, 49 years. How, if you were to put a number on the number of photos you've taken over those 49 years, what would it would be in the tens of thousands for sure, maybe not the hundreds of thousands. Since I went digital, which I was resistant to digital because I really liked film. I was old school. So I'd say since 2004, I've shot over 1 million. Wow.
Yeah, so I've probably shot more in the last 20 years than I shot in my first 30 years because film is expensive and it's limited what you can do.
Right, yeah.
So, but I used to travel sometimes for 6 months to multiple countries, and I'd be carrying this big bag of Kodachrome film, and bribing security guards not to put it through X-rays.
Right.
So I would not see what I'd shot, for 5 months.
Yeah.
So I had to trust my own abilities that what I was getting was good.
Wow, that must have been scary at first.
Well, I mean, that was the way it was.
Yeah.
And you had to be confident that your skills were good enough that you knew you got the shot without being able to see it.
Right. Wow.
Right now you can see it instantly, and you can just keep shooting.
You certainly have the eye for it, and we're seeing it here in the Land Between
Waters.
Thank you so much with this book. All right, on to photo number 2. I'm excited to see the rest of these. Wow, what a montage this is. Yeah.
So April is Earth Month, so I thought what I would do is take a bunch of different themes from the book and put it into a montage. So, as I mentioned, there's Brian Populaire is the biologist for the Bruce Trail. He wrote a chapter on the species. There's several indigenous chapters, as I mentioned. There's a chapter on sustainability that's written by the UNESCO chair on community sustainability. Her name's Dr. Liette Vasseur from Brock University. There's a geology chapter. There's a chapter on the Bruce Trail and chapters on ecotourism and also the Greenbelt.
Yeah, so, and you'll notice in the top left corner, for those who are viewing the screen, that it's not just landscapes. You have a number of different animals, birds, reptiles featured in this book as well.
I do. And so I'm not really a wildlife photographer. I don't wait in blinds with, super long lenses for animals to come near me.
Yeah.
If they come near me when I'm hiking, I get the photo.
2 birds, 1 stone, so to speak.
Yeah, so I have a 200 millimeter lens, which is not a super high telephoto. But that particular shot of that snapping turtle was taken in Carroll's Bay, right here in Hamilton.
Wow.
And I saw this turtle and got closer and closer to it, and it seemed very serene. So I was face to face with it, probably a foot away.
Really?
We were looking at each other in the eyes, and then it started to move its back legs. So I got up and looked, and it had been laying eggs when I took that photo.
Wow.
So that made it kind of special.
Wow, that is unbelievable. All right, photo number 3.
So this is the cover of the book.
Yes.
And it reflects the indigenous content as well as the natural world.
What a great shot.
So that's taken in the Niagara Gorge, in a place where it's inaccessible. The Niagara Police and Niagara Parks escorted me down there because we wanted to get a shot of a smoke dancer in the canyon against the backdrop of the American Falls.
Yeah.
And that's Kiara Sheehan. She was 13 when I took this photo. It was in 2018. She lives in Hamilton. She's Onondaga and Anishinaabe, so a mixture of Haudenosaunee and Ojibwe. So she's now 21, and I have not seen her since 2018. So I'm going to see her at the book launch.
Oh, that's amazing!
Yeah.
Wow. And does she know that she's on the cover?
Oh, she sure does. I had to get permission.
Okay,
of course.
That's true. But this is a prototypical action shot. You have her in action. The falls are always in action.
Yes.
It's quite the scene.
So I'm doing a limited edition series of this print because it's so popular.
Yeah.
People love this image, and I love it too.
Wow.
So.
Okay, on to our next photo. And these are the top 10 that Mark has picked out from his book, Niagara Escarpment, Land Between Waters. Okay, what are we seeing here?
So this is another montage of 6 out of the 8 Indigenous chapter writers.
Okay.
So in the top left, we have Josh Ishkok-Hogan from the very eastern tip of Manitoulin Island. So he's kind of like the Pope of Manitoulin Island.
Okay.
He's the spiritual leader, and he's called on by all nations to do ceremony.
Wow.
And so he wrote a foreword in the book. And so did Carolyn King, who's down at the bottom, second from right.
Yeah.
Carolyn King is very well known. She's the Order of Canada and the founder of the Moccasin Identifier Initiative, and a wonderful lady. So she wrote a foreword as well. The one in the top right is Lenore Kishig. She's a naturalist and a grandmother from Neoshingamine First Nation who wrote a chapter in my first book, and she's an amazing writer, an amazing person.
Yeah.
The bottom right is Alan Corbier. He's that historian I was telling you about from Manitoulin Island. He's actually from Jiking First Nation on Manitoulin, but teaches at York U and Harvard. The second from bottom left is Brian Kahn. He's the Métis leader from Niagara. And the one in the very far left bottom is Tim Johnson, who's a direct descendant of Joseph Brant, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was the director of the Institute for the American Indian at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington for 20 or 30 years. Wow. And he's very accomplished, and just recently became the president of a new initiative called the Niagara Academy for Indigenous Relations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great group.
So these are 6 of the writers, and four of them will actually be at the launch.
That's
on
amazing.
April 29th.
April 29th at the Lister Block. All right, on to the next photo. And this, again, are the top 10 from your book, Niagara Escarpment, Land Between Waters.
So you notice how I squeezed in more photos?
You did. Yeah, you're kind of cheating, but that's okay.
I did.
There's so many good ones.
I wanted to show just a sample of the images from Hamilton. And
look at the difference too.
Yeah, this is really, Hamilton is such a, I find it a very beautiful community.
Yeah.
I came here in 1996. I met somebody from Stony Creek and decided to change my location and move to Hamilton, and really started to discover how beautiful it is here, how much green space, the trails, and the geography of Hamilton, and the people are, it's a very friendly city, I find. Absolutely. And so I love Hamilton. And so this represents, the conservation areas, the waterfalls, Carroll's Bay, the bustling downtown, which is really going through a huge resurgence now.
Yes.
There's it's become the city of the arts as well as city of steel and waterfalls, and some of the history of Hamilton as well.
Yeah.
So
Stony Creek and the reenactors.
Yeah. The woman in the upper center is Angela de Montigny. She's a Métis artist who created a beautiful monument in Hamilton Harbor called All Our Relations. It's 7,000 glass beads that mounted in an iron sculptures, 5 huge iron sculptures, and that was launched, I believe, in 2023.
Okay.
So that's a beautiful monument.
I haven't seen that. So where in the harbor is it?
So it's right at the very foot of James Street. So
Really?
Yeah. So if you go to the end of James Street, you'll see these 45-foot high sculptures.
Okay.
And there's 5 of them.
You know what? We had a news story on this a few months ago, so I remember seeing it there, but I haven't seen them physically, so I'm eager to go check it out.
Go early in the morning or go at sunset.
Sunrise
because
or sunset?
the low light lights up these glass beads, which are the size of softballs, and it's quite spectacular.
That is so cool. And really, I mean, this kind of montage shows the difference between, the gritty, hard-working part of Hamilton and the part where you can just, throw your hair back and go visit a waterfall. It's just so different.
In the book, I mean, there's shots of Gore Park Fountain and also steel mills. So we have, from industry to the natural world. And one interesting thing about Hamilton is, on one side you've got the Hamilton Harbor.
Yes.
With the steel mills and industry, which has built this city. On the other side of the high-level bridge, you have Cootes Paradise, wetland, which holds the highest level of biodiversity in all of Canada.
It's amazing.
For birds and animals, and it's a very important bird flyway. So we have, incredible wealth of natural treasures, really.
It's also the biggest city, too, where it shares the escarpment, right?
That's right.
Lower city, and then we have, up the mountain, as we call it.
So it's the largest city on the escarpment in Canada or the U.S.
Wow.
And it's really defined by the escarpment, which runs right through the whole city.
Yeah.
And
it's an amazing place.
Two-tiered city.
All right, on to the next photo. I'm not sure what number we're on, but
okay. So
this is one of my favorites, by the way, in the book.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So this is scientifically a very important photo. It's Crawford Lake from North Burlington into Milton. So it's a meromictic lake, and the upper and lower waters is very deep, never intermix. So there's scientific evidence is preserved of all the changes that have happened in our biosphere over the last thousands of years. So it's been identified as the marker for the Anthropocene epoch. There's evidence of indigenous neutral nation villages that were there thousands of years ago. And so it's scientifically very, very significant.
Yeah.
And a beautiful place to visit.
Absolutely, as you can see. Now, this is obviously taken during the fall as the leaves are changing colors. Very picturesque. Wow. Okay, so this is photo number 6. On to photo number 7.
Okay. So this is the very highest point of Manitoulin Island. It's called the Cup and Saucer Nature Preserve, and this is the eastern point, looking eastern across. You can see all of Manitoulin from this point. And it's stewarded by the Escarpment Biosphere Conservancy, which is one of the largest land trusts in Canada, and they preserve all these different nature preserves throughout Ontario. And I don't know the amount of hectares that they protect, but it's a huge amount of land that they do protect.
So how high up are these two individuals on top of this? Hundreds of feet, I would imagine?
I think 60 meters, something like that. Okay. Yeah, so that's 100.
Well over 100 feet.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're brave souls. I wouldn't be on the ledge, that is for sure. Okay, on to photo number 8.
So this is part of Bruce Peninsula National Park and Fathom 5 Marine Park, Flower Pot Island.
Flower Pot Island, yes.
The two famous flower pots with some Canada geese floating by, and I love this shot because it's very primordial. And I actually hired a boat to take me over there because no one sees it at this time of day except for people from the park. Because this was at about 5:30 in the morning in June. So the only way to get there is by taking the tourist boats over, and they don't start till 9 in the morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the island was empty when I got there.
Yeah.
It was quite cool.
This reminds me of the Hopewell Rocks in Nova Scotia.
Yes.
Very similar.
I've been there. Yeah.
Now, does the tide rise here too, or not so much?
Oh, no.
Okay.
We don't. This is Georgian Bay, so it doesn't have the huge tide fluctuation like in New Brunswick.
Yeah. Wow, it's a stunning shot, especially with the sky, very serene. That is magical. All right, on to I think this is the second last photo.
Okay, so I think you probably recognize this, Horseshoe
Looks
Falls
familiar.
or Niagara Falls.
Not from this angle, though.
So this is shot from a helicopter. Niagara Helicopters kindly took their door off their helicopter and took me up. So
really?
I was shooting not through glass. That was exciting.
Are you buckled in at this point?
I was buckled. Oh yes. Otherwise, I would have been in the falls because we were sideways when I took this. We were right above it.
That's incredible.
So just the reason I include a lot of Niagara Falls is because in my travels around the world to really remote places like the Masai Plain in Kenya or in the Amazonas jungles of Peru, people don't know where Canada is.
Wow.
If I tell them I live in Hamilton, they have no idea where that is.
Yeah.
Even Canada, they have no idea. But if I say Niagara Falls, no matter where I am in the world, they know where that is, or they have some idea
of what it looks like.
Yeah, and where it's located, sort of at the center of North America. So it's really one of the most famous landmarks in the world. It seems to be known by everyone, even in the remote parts of the world.
That is an incredible photo. You see the two rainbows there as well.
Yes.
So that's incredible. It's awe-inspiring. It's breathtaking, really.
Thank you.
All right, on to our last photo here of your top 10 from your new book. Wow.
Yeah, so I thought I'd end it here. So during COVID, during the lockdowns, I was actually hired by Cape Croker Park, which is a really large camping park at Neheshingamene First Nation, 350 campsites, I think. So they hired me for a year and a half to come up and shoot all of their
stuff like this.
Stuff like this, but throughout all seasons.
Yeah.
So what a great place it was to be during lockdown.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had COVID up there, so I still had to be careful. But it was just a wonderful way to spend the pandemic.
Wow.
So this is on Sydney Bay, right at the heart of Neheshingamene First Nation, which is also known as Cape Croker First Nation or Chippewas of Nawash.
Okay.
And
so what part of the day would this be?
Oh, this is very early in the morning.
This
is about 5 in the morning.
So sun's just peeking
This
over
is
the
just
horizon.
before sunrise,
Wow.
And it was extremely calm day. It's the Georgian Bay was like a mirror, which doesn't happen very often. So, I was at the right place at the right time.
Wow. So of the montages in the top 10 that we've shown, do you have a favorite? Is it the cover or is it something else?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, there's 600.
They're all your babies.
They are. Yeah. There's 600 photos in the book. So I guess one that may have been showing while we were talking is of the Brock Monument. Overlooking the Niagara River, with General Brock facing New York State, kind of, and I wonder what he's thinking at this point in time. But he's standing like a sentinel, guarding Canada from the onslaught of the 1812 soldiers. That's one that's kind of topical, I would say, right now.
Yeah, very much so.
But there are just so many. I mean, there's the one of the turtle laying eggs. There's one during the eclipse, which I think you showed already.
With the bird.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
I thought this has got to be AI. But it's not.
No, it's not actually. So my wife loves to feed the birds and you're not supposed to do that anymore, but people do it.
Yeah. This is not the RBG, right?
No, actually. So we went to the Woodland Cemetery. Hundreds of thousands of people went to Niagara and they got skunked.
Because it was cloudy.
It was cloudy. So we just decided to go to the Woodland Cemetery, and I thought it'd be really cool to get pictures of birds in the foreground, if possible, but they disappeared during the full eclipse.
Right.
But right as soon as the sun started to pass the moon, a bird landed in her hand.
Wow.
And she didn't have any seeds in her hand. And I just happened to catch that at the moment that the sun was coming. So, yeah, it kind of encapsulates man, nature, the natural world here, and the universe. That's one of my favorite shots.
Wow, yeah, it's one of the many amazing shots in this book. You also, there's a chapter about the next 7 generations.
Yes.
What do you think the next 7 generations has in store in regards to the escarpment?
That really depends on how many people become aware of what we have here. I'm not a scientist, but it seems pretty obvious to me that with California burning up every year, the Okanagan Valley on fire every year, and a lot of the food sources that we have are going to be threatened in the future. So what we have here is incredible soil that was left after, 500 million years of glaciation. Microclimates and very arable land and a lot of water that's in the ground. So that fossilized coral reef left this karst geology, which is kind of like a sponge. It's like Swiss cheese. It holds water. So we have a lot of the world's fresh water in the ground here, let alone being surrounded by the Great Lakes. Yeah. So what we have here is very precious and is going to become more important in the future to as a food source and water source for the world, not just for us here in Ontario. So I think we have to be very careful about how we develop this land because it's not replaceable. So to answer your question is, I really don't know. Yeah. If we keep going on the trajectory that we're on now, it doesn't look that good. But if enough people, it's really up to the younger generations who I really feel for because we've left a big mess for them. But if they start to pay attention and they act accordingly, to really take care to steward these lands, which are so precious to future generations.
Absolutely.
It's really up to them.
Yeah. Well, let's hope what we have now is preserved and enhanced for those future generations as the years drag on. Thank you so much for bringing in your book, for sharing these amazing photos with us and everyone else who's going to be able to see them. And best of luck with this publication as well.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Right. That is a wrap for the Newsmakers podcast. A big thanks to the all-star cast behind the scenes. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe. You can leave a comment as well. And you can catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcast and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.